book was sent down for us as a guidance and a healing. And we accept that this book is the truth and the way. Paswab Pataruk. Panin misva kawun. Pasawab Pataruk. Ze kawuna nazulala he amtkun. Mane maspatu masaa. Ama hadeamu mudamau. Mane muslafukum. Unataru Arjulaye nefashukum Alfukshane kawunkum Pasawabu pataruk Pahadeamu padama Nahun tawuanskum Lahe panenda malu shafe Nahun tawuanskum Lahe tem nasoinu Nahun tawuanskum Lahe ashukuma Anskuma der muslafunu Nahum ater mukrarukum Nahun talub nasad kuma Nahun talub nasad kuma Ansanun kahenataru Ansanun muslafunu Nahum ater muspatu Anun Atun Atun Amun. We are Sabians. All right, so that's our song. The forum is open for everybody. So unmute at any time to participate. A little bit about the author. All right, from the pen of Baabaa Yaanun. Baabaa Yaanun, the master teacher, His Excellency Malachi York Okran. Kobina means born Tuesday, June 26, 1945 AD in Ghana, Africa. All right, so if you would like to update the tones in your name, Kobina, for example, means Tuesday. All right, my name is Nuntat Maratwi Ama M Zahutwi. All right. Ama means born on Saturday. All right. So you can add that to your name. All right. So that's what it means because there's a specific energy coordinate. All right. So these are Baaba's coordinates, and Baabaa taps in. One of his titles that he wears, or one of the hats, he's the transmitter, and to transmit means to tap in, all right, and deliver a message, like your neurotransmitters, all right? That's why we're healing our nervous system, all right? So let's continue reading, and feel free to unmute. And everything that we did is recorded, and we're going to share everything in the end. So let's see. So we're going to just start with the atomic bombs and different things that's happening on the planet, all right? On page 49, 229. Okay. You know what? Let's go a little bit further back. All right. So let's start on 48, on page 222. They waited to the end of, so this is 222. They waited the end of the devil's dominion in the year 2000 AD, 223. Now they are released to kill 1/3 of people in their wars, 224. They will be a great number when they join as one, some 200 million, 225. This is that hour, 60 years of 30 of 230 years times. All right. So from the year 1970 to 2000. All right. So that's where Baabaa came teaching. Baabaa is the man of the hour. So 1970 to 2000. That's when we were in the school of religion. All right. The end of the Adamite Dominion was 2000. So we're in that time now from 2000 to 2030. That's the second half hour, 60 years. All right. That's if we can clean ourselves up in time. So they had their judgment, 2000. All right. Now it's our judgment time to 2030. So we have that time to get ourselves on track. All right. 226. And the bull, Russia, and the dragon, China, only wait for the right moment when the eagle is down to strike and bring in Babel and Saddam's final destruction. All right. So it's explained earlier in the scroll that the bull, that's the image for Russia, and dragon, that's China. The eagle represents the United States of America. All right, so we're in that time because we're very weakened, and Russia and China is only waiting for the right moment to strike. All right, 227. As all those other nations and kingdoms and countries that live in the image of the devil in its lust and fornication and abomination only stand off and watch the new Babel and Saddam fall from world power and can no longer protect them. So they weep and cry, the lamentation of the weak who receive the mark of the beast. All right. So those nations who benefit and join in from what America has done. All right. So they will be suffering as well, but they'll stand on crying because their industries are going to be affected as well. All right. 229. It all started with the atomic bomb of Revelation 9, the fifth message, the star bomb that had fallen from the sky to earth. 230. The atomic bomb as a star from above the earth opened up, and great mushroom cloud of the abyss arose. When it opened, a smoke. All right. This is the mushroom cloud that he's talking about. That's the visual. All right. They dropped this bomb. This is what it looked like. All right. The atomic bomb's name was called Little Boy. And that was dropped in 1945 in Hiroshima. All right. And Japan. It was like smoke from a gigantic furnace. Even Pa Shamash, the sun, and much of Pa Patats, the sky, were blocked by the smoke cloud or dust cloud from deep in Pa Taha, the earth. So you could imagine the destruction. All right. You couldn't see the sun. You couldn't see anything. All right. It was blocked. Those in Asia had suffered so much from the atomic bomb and other bombs. They wanted to die the physical death, yet the radiation was in their very genes to be born in their offspring to this very day. All right. These are the effects that the bomb had on the genetics of the people in Japan. All right. And they're suffering because 1945, that's going to be the grandparents of today, for example. And we know that the genes can affect up to the fourth generation. All right. So it takes about 100 years to clean out what was done to them. That's many generations affected. All right. So they still suffer for what was done to them in 1945 with that atomic bomb. The great empires, one thing I skipped, and they wanted to die. All right. So it was so bad, the suffering was so bad, they wanted to die. And a lot of them didn't die. So death eluded them, the people of the dragon. All right. The people of the dragon, that's the Mongolian seed. All right. So even though it happened in Japan, China is the powerhouse of the dragon, but we're talking about the dragon people. All right. And Baabaa explained, don't mistake the dragon with the draconians of the Draco star system. That's two different things. The Dracos reptilians. The dragon is another. All right. So the dragon people, they were meant to live through that. All right. So death eluded them, the people of the dragon. This is 236. Not to be mistaken for the wicked dragons of the Draco reptilians. All right. So you have the wicked dragons. That's the Dracos. All right. Those are two different groups. 237. So the great empires of the dragon, the yellow seed, wait for their day of revenge to come, when the pale white eagle is weak, as it is now, to strike for that atomic bomb. They have been sitting and waiting. Why? He's going to explain next. 238. It was the Germans who were at war with America then. And it was these same Germans who came to America. And being Caucasoids, they were accepted by the American Caucasoids. The Germans taught the people of this new Babel and Saddam how to build the atomic bomb. So the Caucasoids decided not to bomb the Germans, yet to bomb the Asians. So for this reason, the Asians or the Yellow Sea knew that the Murapu, the Europeans, or the pale red or the white sea worked as one race. All right. So they knew they weren't part of that club, because even though Germany and America was at odds with each other, America decided, well, we're not going to bomb the Germans. Let's bomb the Japanese. Let's put the Japanese in concentration camps. And let's accept the Germans as our, so it's like, that's a family war, brothers fighting. All right. You realize you're not part of that family, because they will be fighting. They'll stop to turn on you. All right. So the Chinese and the Asians, they know that they're not really accepted. So they sit and wait. Baabaa said they've been sitting strategically and waiting for their moment. All right. So for this, they now, as the world power, China, plan their plan of revenge. And the bull, Russia, will help bring down the white eagle. So I know they like to depict Russia. You see the president as this white man, but really Russia sits on the continent of Eurasia. Part of it is on Asia. Part of it is on Europe. And also that Russia, they have a lot of like Mongolian looking Russians as well. You have white looking Russians and things in between. So that's really a mixed seed. And reality is that they will come together, because Baabaa explained, they will come together, turn on the West, and eventually they'll turn on each other too. All right. But none of this has to do with the Africans. All right. We have things to do of healing ourselves and getting back to our own self and our culture. All right. All right. So this is the pilot. And this was what was used, this over here, to drop the bomb. Now you have pictures of, all right, Russia. So look at the map of Russia, and Baabaa's showing you where it's on the map. You have Mongolia right there. You have Kazakhstan, all right, and you have China. See, look, so China and Russia actually touch. They share a border. There goes China right here. So that you move it down here, that's all China. That's Russia, all right. And some of these people, they look identical, right? Mongolia, they invaded China. That's why they built the Great Wall of China, to block out the Mongolians. But they're all Mongoloid, all right? Kazakhstan. So these are a mixed people. Russia actually is a mixed people, all right? 242. As is recorded in Christian book of Matthews, chapter 24, verses 27 through 31. And it points out the symbol for as, so we'll read that. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And it points out the symbols in Matthew chapter 24, verses 28, which reads, For wherever the carcass is, there will be the eagles be gathered together. Let me read that again. For wherever the carcass is, there will be the eagles be gathered together. All right. So carcass, you hear in bodies, specifically dead bodies, specifically carcass Asian, but dead bodies in general. And the eagles be gathered. The eagles be gathered with the dead. All right. All right. So those are the symbology Bob is pointing out. So 243. And you read in Matthew chapter 24, verses 29 through 31. These are the signs of those times and time, the first and the second world wars of the Caucasoids. All right. So Baba keeps saying it has nothing to do with you. You go, you fight those wars. All right. Because we fought in all their wars. You're not even accepted as one of them. You can't even fight alongside them. All right. And then on top of that, you don't get the honors that they have. You do it on their behalf as their slaves, but not as one of them. All right. And it really has nothing to do with you. So Baba says, because we always want to be accepted, we want to be part of everything. These wars are not about us. All right. The Asians are not really after us. All right. But if if we get caught up as collateral, then that's just what it is. 244. That's why Baba told us a long time ago, stop eating Chinese food. He said the Chinese people, what they serve to the Americans, they don't eat that. He said slowly they've been poisoning us. So stop eating that food. Because they have an animosity against America on a secret. That's what Baba has said years ago. All right. And for us, we're not really seen as Americans, but we act like Americans, and we give off the energy like Americans, so we can get it too. All right. We have our own thing, and we can get the world respect by respecting ourselves and having our own thing. All right. 244. And they know there will be a third world war with others, as recorded in their Bible in Revelation chapter 10, which speaks of the little book or the last testament, the Quran, given by a mighty angel of light, known as Gabriel, to Ahmed ben Abdallah, the founder of the religion of Islamism, based on the little book he received called Al-Quran, or the Quran, the reading. All right. Baba, that's what Baba says it translates to. Al-Quran just means the reading. And this book, Al-Quran, sounds good or sweet in the mouth, yet it is bitter truth to the Jewish and Christian world. In Revelation chapter 10, verses 1 to 11. All right, 1 to 11. Matthew chapter 24, verses 29 through 31 reads, Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Then shall appear the sight of a Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of earth mourn, and shall the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heaven to another. All right. So just reading this, for example, you see why this is not for us, particularly. Now, certain symbology, certain stories, okay, we can relate to. But just for example, when it said that the days will be, the tribulation in those days, the sun shall be darkened. All right. So I'm thinking about thick smokes or clouds or whatever. And the moon shall not give her light. All right. Now we as scientists, ontologists, all right, that studies the science of sciences, we know that there's no light, that the moon doesn't give off light. It only reflects light. All right. So this was not written by people who knew that fact per se. All right. Or it wasn't written for people to know that fact. All right. So automatically right there, that's not for you. All right. 245. The Revelation chapter 10 speaks on the seed of Abraham and the three religions spawned from him. All right. The three religions spawned from Abraham is Mosesism, Jesusism, and Muhammadism. All right. So it's the same forces. All right. So 246. And how those of Mosesism, Jews, and those of Jesusism, Christians, are to exclude the third, or the Muhammadism, Islam, and Muslim or Muslim. They call them heathens or Gentile. It all started with the 42-month war between the Arabs and Jews on border. For land, they called the 3-day war. All right, so they were fighting over land. As American or Euro-Americans gave Arab land over the Euro-Jews in Palestine, given by the United Nations, Europeans helping Europeans. All right. So when you really look at those lands, there's a lot of things that took place on those lands. And even in the Bible, they're always being promised land. I will take you to the promised land. Do not be afraid. All right. And on those promised lands, there's typically people already there. But don't worry, you'll have victory. All right. Because you're my chosen people. All right. So you have brothers, all right, one mixed brother, but brothers nonetheless, fighting over the spoils, all right, of things that really don't belong to either of them anyway, all right? But even still, that the mixed brother is not really accepted, that's still not your problem, all right? You're not part of the Abraham family. And even if you're part of the Abraham family, Abraham only got into your genes through rape, all right, because Hagar did not want to be with Abraham. Sarah couldn't have children and said, "Go rape my maiden lane. Go rape that African, all right? Go rape that Egyptian African because I can't have children. When she gives birth, I'll take the child." Oh, guess what? The angel opened my womb, so now I can have my own child. So we don't need Ishmael anymore. I'm tired of looking at her and her son. Because I have my own child now. I have Isaac. So send her away to die in the desert. That's how your father, the rapist father, treated you. All right. So you want to go back to Hagar. All right. Hagar's genes, your African Egyptian genes. All right. And your father didn't care what happened to you. All right. Stop asking for acceptance and where you will never be accepted. All right. So 248. As you read Nuwapians and Revelations, chapter 11, verses 7 through 9, Sodom and Egypt. The Palestinians are from Egypt. In Genesis chapter 10, verses 14, as Philistines. In Revelations chapter 12, it speaks of the fallen angels and the Christians and how they will come down to earth and say, "Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to earth, and he is very angered because he knows from Jesus' time, 2,000 years ago, he only has that much time left. Year 1 to 2,000, which is 6,000 Adam calendar, 250. The Revelations 13 speaks of the devil as a man, and the spread of witchcraft and those with the mark or the leper, and his number is 666, and how the draconians, the reptilians, gave them power. All right. So now we know that mark of the beast is actually the mark of a man, which is a genetic marker. So they went worldwide, these sickly lepers, and spread their disease world over. All right. A lot of why we have a problem today with each other is because of these infiltrations in the genetics. All right. those of us carrying the mark of the beast, all right, or those genetic markers, all right. And I remember a long time ago, I didn't understand what Bob meant by that, but now I understand more. A long time ago, Bobby gave an update saying that the first Nuwapians, or the first of us, will be having the mark of the beast. I didn't know what that meant, right? And he talked a lot about materialism too, and being very physical beings, all right? And that's what we're working through. All right, so some of us carry the genetic markers, and sometimes it's a lot, or sometimes we feed the forces a lot, and it's active in our, because we already have those gateways, and Bob is giving us tools to close it up, because he started in the front of the book talking about getting walk-ins. That's why we have our chants, and that's why I was chanting, because the chants really relate to this scroll of when we call out to our ancient good ancestors to protect us from the evil ones. All right, not just some random evil one walking out, the evil ones that has infected us, because before you can affect, you have to first infect. And that's why Baba says to interrogate before you integrate. All right, you ask before you take it into your being. All right, but a lot of us, we already took it into our being through whatever happened to our mothers and fathers. All right, and we're holding these bags, all right, today. All right, and that's why it's so easy for us to be turned against. All right, because some of us have genetic agreements that's anti our people, where we come and infiltrate. And Baba has that explained in many of the old scrolls, like let's set the record straight. Jesus found in Egypt. You can look at the introduction. All right, and Baba talks about that. But now we have a lot more sciences, so we know why and how. All right. So not all your ancestors necessarily like Baba. Some of them are resistant. All right. But that's our job, to become of the Muklasenia. Muklasenia means the purified ones, cleaning yourself up. Almost like cleaning yourself up in a garbage can, right? With all this stuff happening. All right. So Revelations 13, verse 250, speaks of the devil as a man, and the spread of witchcraft, and those with his mark, leper, and his number 666, and how the draconians and the reptilians gave them power. I know a lot of people, they like to use carbon. Carbon means melanin. Reality, anything that breathes can be carbon dated, all right? Anything that has a burning in it, all right? The fish can be carbon dated, the Caucasian can be carbon dated, the person can be the black person, anybody with a breath, anything that deals with any type of burning. All right. So all lights are put on and lights eventually go out. All right. So we're just talking about physical existence in carbon. All right. And then you have, and then carbon also happens to be the sixth element on the periodic table. All right. And it has 6 electrons. 6 protons, 6 neutrons. All right. And the value is 6. All right. So carbon is not what makes us unique. So I'm just mentioning that because you have some people with deep philosophies. All right. And it's a limit, because there's limits that fire can go. So there was one group that they had called themselves carbonation. I'm like, without them knowing, they're saying they're 6 ether nation, which they ended up in time showed that they really were. All right. So that's why I love Baba. People take his information and twist it. And Baba said they'll trap. It's meant to trap the devil. This is meant to trap the devil. So we're always cleaning ourselves up. And it's very important. As Baba has said, the devil doesn't really like a mirror, right? So when you take that mirror and you put that to yourself, you start to refine yourself, because Baba's the reformer, all right? And sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, all right, depending on what's going on in your genes, all right, or what you have intaken. All right, so 251, the one wounded who did not die was Ronald Wilson Reagan. Note his name is 666. 252. He incorporated the Church of Satanism and was a head, just one of the heads of the Beast Nation, a governor, who had a fatal wound. His wound was healed while the whole world was astonished, and he followed his human head of the Beast Nation, who was into Wiccan white magic. Wiccanism, white magic, right? This whole scroll is dispelling white magic. What does Wiccanism and white magic deal with? It deals with playing with the appearances of things. All right. So Marilyn Monroe, that's a good example. All right. That woman, that's a lot of surgery. She was groomed and she was trained to be a seductress. All right. And she had surgery, things like that, to seduce the others. All right. And even till today, that spell of Marilyn Monroe is still permeating. All right. That'll be a form example. All right. So it's a smoke and mirrors. All right. And that's what was taught by these extraterrestrials when they came down. All these deceptions. All right. And these illusions. And then we will believe them and we'll give power to the beast. That because it's really not based on anything outside is except deceptions. So that is black magic. I mean, white magic. All right. We have another scroll, Patarak, called black magic or white magic. For us, ours is black magic. All right. What is black magic? See how they made it seem bad because people who practice witchcraft, so to speak. I'm a good witch. I do white magic. That's a bad witch. She does black magic. Black magic deals with going behind the appearance of things and getting the facts, because you can get blinded by the lust of luster. All right, the blinding lights. So things can appear a certain way. I could dress really nice and I could be a very evil woman. The other person, me and her, could be wearing the same exact outer garment. We could look the same. We could even be twins. I might be the evil twin. She might be the good twin, or vice versa. Until you investigate. You go behind the appearances of things. That's called animism. All right. So you find out what's animating the energy from what's presented in front of you. That's black magic when you go into the true value of something, because creation is happening in darkness. All right. So it's more forthcoming. All right. So you can't just fool a person who's in tune with dark magic, because they're not going to just stop at the way things appear. That's why Bible said you can't just go to any spaceship, because we're going to have real invasions, real extraterrestrial invasions, and we're going to also have artificial ones. And what he meant by that, a lot of it won't be real, and it's going to be through the use of holograms. It will look very real. All right. Because you won't be able to tell until you actually touch it, for example. But you can have two crafts side by side, and one is an actual hologram and one is a real craft. All right. And you won't be able to tell. All right. Unless you are in tune with black magic. All right. And black magic deals with looking behind the appearances. All right. And then also some of these crafts, there's different crafts and different things going on, and some of them will be for you and some of them will not be for you. All right. And some of them can appeal to your ego and appear of what you would like. All right. So that's why you have to be able to recognize an illusion no matter what form it takes. All right. Because they will refine the illusion. They don't want to look at white people anymore. So let's flavor the lie with something, with the seasoning that they already like. All right. So, for example, black people, they like lemon pepper. So let's put lemon pepper on this and present it and put the lie in there and the poison. All right. So if you're just stuck on a luster, you're going to be food for the gods. Revelations chapter 11, verses 7 through 9, it reads, "And when they shall finish their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. And also our Lord was crucified, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in the grave. So you're going to, it's the same, pretty much you're going to see this war. You're going to see bodies all over the street, and no one's even going to bother to bury them. So they're just going to let the bodies stay out and rot. In Genesis chapter 10, verses 14, it says, and Panthrusim, and Calushim, out of who came Philistine and Caphtorim. All right. So I'm guessing these are places. All right. I got to look up those places or people. They're either people or places. All right. So, and you have Ronald Reagan. Baabaa explains in Leviathan 666. Those are old scrolls before 2000. He had it broke down Ronald Reagan and the different goals. You see Ronald Reagan there. You saw who else? That guy who had died. That musician, that guy, I forgot his, Quincy Jones, and the roles that they played, the forces that were behind them. So Quincy Jones did a lot of harm to our people through the music. All right. And a good example is that song from Michael Jackson called Thriller. All right. That wasn't the original song. The original song Michael Jackson had wrote was called Starlight Sun. And it was like, I need some starlight, starlight sun. And it was talking about how that song was talking about how he needs starlight sun and how all these forces try to take you down, but you have to keep yourself positive. And Quincy Jones said, no, that's just too clean. Like, it's too goody two shoes, Michael Jackson. We have to give you an edgier image. And Quincy Jones hired I forgot that voice, but that voice, the one who's the voice actor, that white guy, and that voice actor, he's in a lot of horror movies. So Quincy Jones had hired him.
Vincent Price.
What's his name?
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price, right. Tower hat. So Vincent Price. And they redid Michael Jackson's song, Starlight Sun. And they gave it an edgier thing. So now it's doing the opposite. Because Michael Jackson was talking about keeping your vibration high, not losing your sunlight, staying a sun child. Pretty much it's talking about being in the glory of that of the sunlight. All right. Now he's going straight into becoming a ghoul. So you'll see Michael Jackson turned into a ghoul. So Michael Jackson the message was inverted, and it's saying give in to being a ghoul. All right. And then the funny thing is, when Michael Jackson talks about his vitiligo, they ask him, Michael Jackson, when did you start having your vitiligo? He says sometime around Thriller. You can hear him. He said right after Thriller. That's what he had said, if you could find those. So when you look at because you can't just look at how music by slowly but surely was brought down, the vibration dropped, but you can't just go from one extreme to another. It's a seduction. So you seduce it to down. All right. So the upliftment is gone. The artistry is gone. Now you just have what we see today. Quincy Jones was an example. All right. And he was an early example of bringing down. And Puff Daddy, he's a good example as well, because now Puff Daddy just went into sampling. All right. So now there's no creativity. You take a sample of something somebody already did, and everybody's just sampling and pushing buttons and then taking credit. All right. And not really. So that was the whole thing. So Baabaa explains, maybe not all those details, because I learned all those details just by looking into it. But Baabaa explains that in Leviathan 666 and part 1 and 2 in the Millennium books. part 1 specifically of Leviathan. All right. So these are the roles that people played in society. All right, and who was seated in their being. And Baabaa also says that a lot of anybody who you see is not a new soul. They're a reincarnation of some type of energy or agenda. Like Baabaa, for example, his agenda, his energy, 76 trillion years as Yanun, but he didn't incarnate by himself. He's incarnated with helpers, a helpful energy, and also an energy that's opposing. All right, like Ronald Reagan. So when you do the research and what energy he's ushering, Trump, and all that. All right. So 253. And in his time was the year June 6, 1966, or 666, that he made Anti-Levi or Leviathan a high priest of the Church of Satanism, who worked on a cinema called Rosemary's Baby. That's a very good movie. Watch it. About the incarnation of the demon seed into a U.S. president or Jacqueline Kennedy. All right. So Baabaa says that when you watch Rosemary's Baby, he sees that when he watches it is that it should be a documentary in actuality. So you see that there was in the storyline that there was a guy that he was an actor or something like that, and he had a wife, and he had drugged her, and some type of creature, a beast or whatever, had sex with this lady while she was drugged up, and she got pregnant, and they were gaslighting her a lot. All right. But the reality is that they wanted to just create conduits and so Baabaa says that's actually what happened with Jacqueline Kennedy. But it didn't just happen with Jacqueline Kennedy. There was a bunch of children that came through. But now you see, when you do research, and why Baabaa's helping the women to raise the standards, because you realize that women, we represent the gateway in this physical realm. So all types of beings we could pull. We have the opportunity to pull different kind of beings in. All right. So we're closing certain gateways, and that's why they're attacking the women so much. All right. But we'll go into that. All right. And I just don't like how people are weaponizing it, because they're weaponizing certain information. So, but we'll get through that. Don't worry. We'll get through that. We're going to set things straight. All right. So 254, Jackal or Jacqueline Kennedy or John Fitzgerald Kennedy, president between 1961 and 1963. She birthed the demon seed in New York's 72nd Street building, Dakota House. All right. So that movie is depicted in the Dakota House. All right. And that story actually happened between these two people. All right. This is on 72nd Street in New York City. It's still there. All right. With luxury apartments. A lot of celebrities live there, like John Lennon. And I like that singer. I forgot her name. She sang, "The first time ever I saw your face." What's her name?
Roberta Flack.
Roberta Flack, yes. She lived there too. All right. I remember Baabaa saying something about her being a witch, but God, she's a witch or not, I love her music. All right. That Baabaa had explained that she has something to do with the death of, what's that other singer? I'm sometimes I forget people's names. That other singer, Donny Hathaway. All right. But they made some beautiful music together. All right. So June 255. So it's a few people that live there, different politicians. A lot of things happen. Agreements are made. Rituals are done in that place. Children have been born there. All right. A lot of things has happened. All right. And there's another interesting building that I took a picture of. There's a lot of secret things that's in the architecture. if you ever have time to go around and look at the architecture. All right. So 255, and Pope John Paul the sixth, Pope John Paul the sixth, or Pope equals 6, Paul equals 6, and Vi. All right. Vi equals 6. All right. 666. So the name is right there. All right. Because Vi, remember we talked about the Vikings. That's what Greek numbers. I mean Roman numerals. I meant to say Roman numerals. And how to write 6 in Roman? You had to just write a V and an I. All right. So Pope the 6th, Paul. His name adds up to 6. All right. So 256, or Satan's son, on June 6, 1966. AD, who at age 13 became known as the International Year of the Child. All right, the International. So there was a specific child. There's different people that were born for different things. All right, so there was a specific child. And then Bible says, if you look it up, that became an International Year of the Child. So if you look it up, it actually, somebody likes to do that while we're reading. You could look up the International Year of the Child. All right. He became 13. 13 in Jewish means that you're officially a man. So that's the bar mitzvah. All right. So this being was, come of age. And sometimes I feel like I see who some of these demon children are. Some of them are entertainers and different things like that. And you see the agenda that they're pushing. And for example, I don't know, I can't confirm it, but I really feel like, what's the name of that crazy lady? Lady Gaga. I feel like Lady Gaga is one of them. And the reason why I say that, because she has a specific look, that there's a common look. And then on top of it, that agenda, she was doing that meat dress and all that craziness. And I remember Beyonce's song that she did with Lady Gaga. What was the name of that song? Stop Calling Telephone. That video is wild because you see that Beyonce is on the outside seducing some man, and she's poisoning people in the restaurant. And Lady Gaga's in the kitchen killing people and cooking them up, when you really look at that video. And then she was doing that meat dress. And what their job is to do, pretty much, these fire children. Their job is to seduce the planet and just wreak havoc, all right? And normalize, all right? So now you see, what are we into? We have the young people right now, they're over there smoking K2 and doing all these crazy things. And Miley Cyrus, I'm thinking about her song, when she's in she's singing some song, I forgot the name of the song, and she's talking about she's waiting online to get a line. So she's waiting online to the bathroom to go do a line of coke, and she talked about doing Molly and all that other stuff in her song. And it just made it so cool to the young people coming up and get surgeries and do all types of things. All right, as Baba had it early in the scroll. And then everybody could just be like, I'm just expressing myself. I'm just being myself. And let me see what I can find. Yeah, there we go. There you go. I'm just expressing myself, right? That's where she started. She doesn't. I'm just expressing myself. All right. Let me disfigure myself. Put on this butt that's gonna look horrible in 5-10 years. I'm just expressing myself. Let me put on blonde hair, blue contacts. I'm just expressing myself. So you see how it's a slight seduction. Some of them are more extreme than others. All right. And their star children are disposable. All right. So they're disposable. All right. Because their beings are cannibalistic anyway. All right. So 257. It was Lyndon Baines Johnson from 1963 to 1969 who was behind Kennedy's sacrifice to Satan. All right. So Bible says that he was part of the conspiracy. All right. where Kennedy was assassinated. 258. And Kennedy was a sacrifice. All right. So 258. And on up to this day in Revelations chapter 14, chapter 15, chapter 16, chapter 17, and 18, it speaks of their history and their fall as fallen. All right, so now with all the facts, if you want to go back and read their books and Revelations, you can read it again. Just like it would be a good idea to read again Leviticus. All right, and when you read Leviticus, it's just a big cookbook how to prepare God's sacrifices, how He likes it, or these beings like it. Leave the fat on it, put a little salt. Which part you have to eat. You have to take a little piece of it, eat it yourself. If you don't eat it, this guy will devour you. So if you don't do what he wants, so the sacrifice isn't good, then prepare to be eaten. So they're constantly feeding these beings, because these beings always want something to eat. So these beings always make you feel like you're in trouble, and they're like, I need a sacrifice. All right. So if I'll come back for the sacrifice, so they will go get us. That's where they get scapegoat. That's where that term comes from. And it would be the firstborn or whatever the case is. All right. So chapter 18 speaks of their state now. And it says, an angel of lightning who lit up the earth with his glory. 260. And now they see the new Babel and Saddam has fallen, and America has become a dwelling place for physical and spiritual devils. All right. That's why you have to keep your psychic self-defense up more than ever before. We are very, very, very susceptible to walk-ins right now, more than ever before. Eat in a certain way, exercise, and keep your body healthy, keeping yourself focused on certain things. All right. Bible also says whenever he's very close to coming home, that's when the infighting starts. All right. So I remember I was like on a public enclosed place, where it was enclosed, public transportation. And there was a man right there smoking something. I mean, it didn't smell like cigarettes. It didn't smell like weed or anything. I was like, oh, great. I'm probably going to be high when I get off this train. And I did feel like myself altering a little bit. And I said, look at that. And it was like, there was no stop. So I had to it's not like I could get off. So I had to wait. When I got off the fresh air, I was like, okay, I'm okay. So, we see what's happening. People are just shooting up and stuff right in front of people now. All right, so it's getting extreme. All right, so 261. It's a place of sickness and diseases and liars and killers of all kind. All right, this is not the time to be having one night stands and this girl's cute. I don't even know her family. I don't know her background. This is not the time for that. They were talking about down south, places like Texas. Like there was this one healthcare person, they was crying. They was talking about just the numbers are like of these diseases are like in third, it's off the charts and just like third world countries. All right. So this is everything is amplified. All right. 262. It is a place where all demons and foul specters are trapped and cannot cross over to the Tapal spirit world and have become lost souls and lost spirit, ghoul, ghosts, demons full of evil, hatefulness, and wickedness. All right. So a lot of these beings that are trapped here, all right, physical and spiritual demons. All right. So the pale eagle is sick and dying. And all those nations who Sharuba drunk of her short-lived fame for 400 years, the wrath is upon them. All right, the wrath is upon them too. Interesting. I don't know if this whale is still alive, but when I read the article, it was. There's a whale. I forgot the name. It's kind of an ugly whale, but it's a whale. And when I read the article, the whale was 512 years old. All right. So they were talking about this will is actually older than the United States of America. All right. So the will is still alive today. What's the name of that kind of will? I forgot the name. The hump will, something like that. But you guys can look it up. And I forgot the secret in their long lives. All right. So 265. So think about it. There's an animal, like America's only been alive for 400 years when you really think about it. And it's already on its way out. All right. And there's an animal that has outlived America. All right. 265. So that's why when we were talking about sacrifice, somebody had asked about sacrifice yesterday, and they was confused. And I said, what's the difference, when you have certain ceremonies, like let's say voodoo traditions or different things like that. And it's like, well, when you really think about it, what creator will we be needing to make blood sacrifices to, or what spirit force, so to speak, would be requesting that? All right, not the spirit forces that we're aligning ourselves to, because there's all these different spirit forces. So we could see the different infiltrations, all right, because they are very cunning, because they want to feed and eat. So the sacrifices that we make, because I want to Natharu like sacrifices as well. But what does our sacrifices look like? Our sacrifices look like I'm going to sacrifice the short-term, immediate gratifications for the long-term benefit. That is the sacrifice that you and Natharu are looking for. It takes discipline, right? So, and it's not easy all the time, but that's the sacrifice, because it's a big sacrifice at times. All right. So now you think about how people sacrificed so much for immediate pleasure that's gone just like that in 400 years. That's a short time when you look at the big existence of just how long we've been existing, just as a species of people. All right. So the sacrifice isn't worth it. I mean, the pleasure or whatever it is, the temptation is not worth it. It's better to suffer right now, because I remember I was suffering because everybody's eating all the cakes I like. And it was right when I started, I was like day one of the fast. And then they was like, oh, we're having and they had all the cakes that I like, everything. And then I could smell everything. And it was like, and then they brought it on different floors. And they was like, help yourself, everything is free. And I suffered that day. I suffered. But guess what? I have the long-term benefit. So that immediate gratification, I was happy that I was able to not live by spirit that day. I lived by soul. All right. So that's what our sacrifices look like. 265. All right. So all those nations who Sharuba drink of her short-lived fame for 400 years, the wrath is upon them too. For its fornications, the rulers of foreign governments who sided with the Babylon and put on uniforms and committed murder and evil with it for wealth and luster, and its open lust. They offer their Bahu souls for luxuries and lusts. They are of Pa Nagar Salah, the Negro race, lose their souls. All right. So you have nations that side with this dying nation. That's why Bible said, come back to before it's too late. All right. This is, you could right you could right the wrongs. A lot of us partake in things we shouldn't have done. I mean, we were here. So that's the beautiful thing. That's why healing is ashuk. That's divine love. The fact that you can heal, the fact that you can correct wrongs, that is a form of ashuk. All right. And that's why we chant, and we are very grateful for Nadaru, for not forgetting us, for the divine love, for this guidance and this healing. All right. Because a lot of us drank from these very things as well. All right. So we're learning to give it back. All right. Give it all back. All right. So Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 reads, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the world and lose his own soul? And what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? That's the King James Version. All right. So that's why Baabaa keeps telling us, live by spirit. Live by soul. Live by soul, not spirit. Why? Because as we learn from Genetic Kiss and other scrolls as well, you have not just one spirit, you have 30 spirits. All right. It looks like this. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. So we're talking about 4 generations back. What has happened in your family for 4 generations? Is everybody in your family a nice person? Like, be honest. All right. Where did I draw it? I drew it backwards. So that's you. And then that's your parents. That's your grandparents and their great grandparents and everything that they've been through. All right. So it's like, grandma or grandpa, he's a very sweet man, but he likes to get drunk on the weekends. All right. Now you have the propensity to want to get drunk on the weekends, maybe not just the weekends, the weekdays too. So if you're living by spirit, you're living for a temporary moment that'll pass. All right. If you live by soul, you're living for the bigger picture. All right. You're living for the whole, the all expanding. So that's why Bob is taking us back. He's taking us back to, let me just get that. Bob is taking us back here. All right. Pout. And then I put my art. This is my art. Pout. And you find in the back of scrolls. And notice this actually spells pout. And the all expanding. So you think about the bigger picture. Sometimes you want to fight that brother or that sister. But think in the long term, is that going to be helpful? All right. I want to eat this cake, but after this moment's over, during my fast, would I be happier in the long term if I eat this cake or if I don't eat this cake? I'm not saying never do something that makes yourself personally happy, but you have to keep it tuned into powers, all right? And that can save you from a lot of suffering, all right, that a lot of these nations brought upon themselves, all right, because they were thinking about temporary benefits. That's going to create long-term suffering. So in actuality, we create our own hells, all right? So you're left with the consequences. Living by soul saves you from so much. So that's why our Natharu, that's why you see our sacrifices looking like that. And it helps you stay more disciplined. It doesn't mean you don't feel those things at times. Because, you're a person. And that's why it says we feel as an individual person. And we succeed as the all. Because you remember, because like a lot of times, if I don't have a reason to do something else, and it's just about what I want, my life might take a totally different trajectory. All right. I would probably look a lot different if I didn't think about the long-term benefits. I would look a lot different. So, and what I mean by that is, if I'm honest, I love to eat. There's a lot of things I might do. I might partake in. That's probably not the best thing because other things has come into I might have unnatural desires because other things are in my genetics. But living by soul helps you, it protects you from those suggestions. All right. So let's just say you want to, maybe somebody down the line is a drug addict. And then for some reason, you have an interest in drugs because it's in the genetics. But then you always think of the bigger picture, for example. And the bigger picture protects you from falling victim. All right. Even though it's in your genetics. So that's what happens when you live by soul. You get protections, all right, that will come than if you didn't. And then slowly but surely, you may even realize that those suggestions aren't there. Or even if you don't feed those forces when you have children, you may notice that you didn't feed those forces. So now the suggestion is a little bit lighter on the next generation. You clean the genetics up a little bit. So that's the benefit of living by soul. All right. So Matthew 16 verses 26 reads, it says, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? All right. I'll give my whole soul away for a piece of cake. And it's so funny because I was watching the Simpsons, and what's his name? Homer Simpson. I think he wanted a sandwich or something like that. He said he'd give his soul for a sandwich, and he got a sandwich, and he was like, he lost his soul. And he was mad because he's like, the meat was dry. He said, okay. He was eating, like, okay, it's good. The meat's dry. He started crying. All right. Mark 18 verses 36. Mark 8. So we're reading the Bible, Mark 8 verses 36. For what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? So I, Baabaa Yaanun, the Master Yaanun, say to you, come out of her, my people, ye Massey natives of our own nation. All right. So Bible calls us here in the West. He called us half souls before, because different things happen to us. All right. So we don't look quite the same. We don't think quite the same, he said. All right. Because we have other things in the genetics now. All right. So come out of her, my people. All right. My own people for your own nation. It's time to go back home. Bible says he's African. All right. So come out of it. We are on 268. Come out of it. The Negro American nationality. Return to your own, so that you are not partakers of its sin, and that you do not catch her many mental and physical diseases. All right. Many of us have it. Jealousy. That's a disease. All right. You look at somebody, you don't know how to appreciate. You don't know how to cooperate. You automatically want to go and destroy. You want to go conquer. You want to go and however the case is. All right. That's a disease of the mind. Disease of the flesh. Eczema, all these type of different things that we've picked up. Scoliosis, all these things. All right. That has infected the genes. A lot of us have these problems. All right. So now we don't want to take in any more of that poison. You don't want to take in more of those markers. All right. It's time to start cleaning ourselves up. All right. And that's why we have all these things. And the Bridge to Salvation talks about letting go of animosity, because a lot of things that has happened to you, you're carrying around baggage from that. And you won't be able to get out of this realm if you're hanging on to animosity. That's what the scroll says. 269. As it says, the rulers who have committed wickedness and evil, fornication. Oh, there's a lot of people who would tell you, I'm not African, I'm Native American. And the funny thing is, the oldest Native Americans here, they validate their claim as the elders of all the Native Americans by taking their claim to Africa as the Washington Nation. They say specifically that they are the same people who walked across from Africa. All right. So they don't deny Africa. All right. Actually, they validate themselves through Africa. All right. And that's on paper. All right. Because they are acknowledged as a Native American tribe on paper in this country. 269. All right. As it says, the rulers who have committed wickedness and evil, fornication, and lived deliciously within it, they will cry and mourn and lament for America as they see the smoke of it burning. All right. Instead of getting out the house, they're going to be trying to put the fire out. My swimming pool. Right. And we see that happening right there, California. All right. Think of all the things that happened in that state. All right. 270. They will not help it any longer, only stand far away on their own lands, saying, finally, the great country, New Babylon, In 1 hour, 60 years from 1970 to 1920 AD has been Danuna, judged. Baaba's trying to get us out of the way in time, all right? But some of us are a little bit too Adamite. We belong here, all right? So we had to raise our vibration so we can vibrate out of that radar, because Baaba has said that. You have to get off their radar, all right? Because it's not your melanin, all right? Like, oh, the melanin. And people get arrogant because they got melanin, and they're not nice people, all right? Or they can afford to buy a beautiful garb, something everybody can't afford, all right? They can afford gold bangles, something everybody can't afford, all right? And they feel superior. So those illusions have to stay here. 271. And all those merchants of this Kawak Taha, planet Earth, will cry and mourn because no one will buy their goods anymore. That's happening. That's happening now. All right. I'm a sell. I do sales. I do a lot of different things. I'm an esthetician. And one thing, like a lot of the numbers that's looking good is they just moving numbers around. All right. It's an illusion. And they're really scared. All right. These big companies. On Macy's, I think a lot of Macy's had closed recently. And all these super places. And even for me, I'm kind of getting tired of stuff. All right. Now space seems luxurious to me. Space seems luxurious. Stuff seems like it's like cluttering. All right. And those merchants of this Kawaktaha, planet Earth, will cry and mourn because no one will buy their goods anymore. 272. European country after European country will be bankrupted. All right. So there's no accident that in the wildfires in California, which some of them are arson, but the fire insurance, the insurance is not protected by fire. That happened like 2 months before that happened. 2 months before the fires, they lost their and then Baaba had warned, I remember another thing. Baaba warned that you're gonna go to the bank one day and there will be no money in the bank. You would have put money in your savings, but you're gonna go to the bank one day and your account's gonna say zero, or it just won't be there. He said that's gonna happen in this country. All right. European after European country will be bankrupted. Woe, woe, the great American New Babel of Sodom. The New Babel and Saddam. In 1 hour, such power and wealth has been brought to ruin because of its racism, its hates, and its evils. All right. So Baaba had explained that the whole Black Lives Matter and all that was an attempt to create what is it called? Racial wars, but it didn't work. And Baaba said it's not going to work because for the most part, Black people, we more docile people. He called us docile people, number one. Number two, we still wouldn't be accepted. Number three, it's just not in our nature. He said what's going to bring the country down, it's actually going to be white supremacist groups are actually the greatest threat to America. All right. And we're seeing that. All right. 274. And that was before the insurrection in the White House and everything happened. That was before that. Because when he has said that like 10 years ago. Not 10 years ago. He said that when the Black Lives Matter was happening. But 10 years ago, he also said that white supremacy is the greatest threat to America. All right. So 274. By its Wiccanism, its sorceries of Laben Magas, that's white magic, where all nations and countries of people Now, Shusha deceived. All right. So that's a confirmation again. What is white magic all about? Deception. All right. And honestly, I'll keep that to myself. But it's about deception. All right. And that's why we have to learn to ask questions. As Baabaa says, that even within our organization, some of us want him home, some of us do not, and we're all mixed in together. And according to the Bridge to Salvation, the time of separation will remain mixed together until the time of separation. All right. So right now, worry about getting yourself straight. Make sure you're not the person that's a problem. All right. And it'll be hard because those walk-ins want to come in. All right. And a lot of times people don't know that they actually are one of them too. They don't know. Some people do. But you have the responsibility. All right. So you're not a deceiver. All right. Or you're not hiding something that you're supposed to share with the entire family. For power. All right. For me, I read the scrolls word for word because the scrolls have empowered me. And I'm not being responsible for playing with that. So I'm going to share it as it's written. And what you do with it, that's your business. All right. So 275. As 1/3 of the heaven defected, of the angels, also 1/3 of the earth died. All right. So 1/3 of so I'm just breaking down what this means. So 1/3 of the population defected with angels. So defected, it's telling me it went or it was taken away by angels. The other third died. So you have a 1/3 that's left. All right. And there were 300 Ikiki sent down to the lower skies to watch over the Adamites. And 200 of them decided to come down and rape the daughters of Enosh, son of Seth, son of the Adam. And 200 were cast into Katatel, physical form, to become cherubim. Of the 300 watchers, the Arim, called the Ikiki, 200 did come down and have evil, wicked offspring of humanoid females, and they were called Nephilim, because afterwards they were sent down to stay on earth, to stay. So you have some of these Nephilim seeds that are still here, just by this verse right here. Now, first to the Saka land, Nod, they spread and mixed to stay on earth 6,000 shamutat years into sod flesh and damam blood, which they did eat both animal and human flesh. All right, some of us like interesting thing. All right, it's very important to stop watching porn. Those of us who like porn, who's watching it, stop watching it. Because what ends up happening, what porn does to the brain, and the reason why I'm talking about porn, I'm getting to something. What porn does to the brain, it desensitizes it. It desensitizes. So you need more and more. You need more and more stimulation, all right, to get to the same place. So you need something crazier to watch and crazier to watch, all right? And it does something to the brain where it destimulizes it, and it hurts your natural connections and as well. It desensitizes and it hinders emotional connections and things like that. However, a rise in a genre of porn, I was reading an article about it. A genre that they're thinking about bringing forward is cannibalism, because it seems like more and more people than ever before are, and I forgot there's an actual name for that type of porn, but more and more people are searching for cannibalistic porn. All right. And it's just letting you know certain genetics has really stayed, and certain genetics are being activated. All right. And Baba said that the masks are coming off. You're going to see people for who they really are, because in the spell of sleep, not just the Nagaru, or not just our divine genes were put to sleep. All kinds of genes were put to sleep. That's why Baba said that when he's waking up gods, he's also waking up devils. All right. So people's true nature is coming out. You're going to see people. So, so the thing is that us in the West, we might have hidden things in the genetics. That's why it's so important, especially of people that different things has happened to, that you want to make sure that you're feeding the Nagaru genetics that's linking to Panadaru, all right? Because that'll offer some protections from these evil genetics that might show itself in the form of a disease, in the form of different things, and in the form of an unnatural craving or something like that. That's coming out because you're seeing certain behaviors, not just in the Caucasoids playing out. You're seeing certain decrepit behaviors in some Nagaru people, all right? So that's something to think about. All right. So yeah, that article really surprised me, but not really. It didn't really surprise me. All right. So so that's why I was saying stop watching it, because what ends up happening is that they throw little subliminals, and you could actually be waking up dormant and dormant genetics, or you could be activating something. All right, because we're eating certain foods we shouldn't be eating. We're breathing in certain things. It might not necessarily be in the genetics, but you are what you intake. And until we're in our natural environment, because we're breathing in this air that we're all sharing, all right? And these small particles go inside your body too, all right? So that's why you want to close off, you know, what you have control to close off. And they put little subliminals, and they're seducing you, all right, to becoming a gateway for them, all right. That's why this book starts off with all the different ways that they can enter you, all right, through your bad genetics, yeah, all right, through sorcerers, through sexual immorality, all right, I'm on page 7, through those who are killers and murderers, all right. So when you kill somebody, Baba also explains that those energies attach themselves and torment you, all right. The adulterers, those doing abominations, those of us intaking strong drinks and abusing strong drinks like coffee. Like coffee is not, it's not good to take that, all right. So strong drinks and alcohol, all right. If you like coffee, limit it. I know a few people that are taking coffee and strong drinks. Panera is actually being sued. They had this lemonade, some magic lemonade. I forgot what they called it. Magic or charged lemonade. And it had so much caffeine in it. And somebody, I guess apparently it tastes good too. And the person might have had 3 cups of lemonade and they got a heart attack. All right. So it had all this energy drink in it, but it wasn't even explained that it had this energy drink. So energy drinks, all right. So we explain, Baba explains how to get your energy by your circadian rhythm. So getting back in tune with your circadian rhythm, that's explained in natural ether energy. So you don't have to go and take coffee and all these other synthetic stimulants, because those open gateways, because it disrupts your natural currents, all right? Those of us who abuse intoxicants, all right? When we're overeating, when we're sitting around talking about people, all right? Look at how short that sister's skirt was, you know? Like you saw who that brother was with. All these things that's really not anyone's business, all right? Those who open themselves up to beliefs and blind faith, all right? So when you start having blind faith, that opens you up. You don't have to have a blind faith, because I might hear something that's like, wow. So I start looking into it. It's not a blind faith. It actually helps to ground me. All right. Because then you could, blind faith could open the door, especially you learn something new. It could open up schizophrenic tendencies and all these types of things. All right. So what helps to keep you grounded is that you take time and you validate things. It validates your reality, your being is grounded in nature. All right. That's very, very helpful. So you take time to explain things to yourself. All right. For the purpose of knowing it. All right. Those are protections. All right. So, because I do know that Baabaa said that this doctrine has a tendency to attract, I mean, I guess it attracts sick people because it's here to heal. But a lot of people don't realize that they're sick. So sometimes it can make them, even if they're not doing the work, it attracts like many demons and stuff like that too. Yeah. So let's see. So they did eat both animals and human flesh. So Baabaa explains 6,000 years moon cycle. They've been down here mixing and doing all that stuff since they came down with the and became cherubim. All right. So 281. And as for the other 100 who did not come down of the Eram, because they did not warn Anu of what the 200 planned, they was also cast out and down to earth, yet not allowed to take human form, only as Ka'ah's spirits form. And these became evil demons who torment humans as ghost ghouls. So Baabaa is explaining that physical beings came down to the planet Earth, and then spiritual energies also came down to the planet Earth. And the physical demons came and they mixed in. And these spiritual demons that came down, they are too weak to incarnate, but they're strong enough to affect others, so they can enter your being. So they can either enter your being through actually physically mixing it with you, or enter your being as a specter. All right. Some will have sex with humans as they halum, dream, and nawum, sleep. All right. That's another reason why you don't want to watch porn and different things like that. All right. Because some of these beings, they can physically have sex with you. Some of these beings actually have sex in the spiritual realm. All right. Some will haunt homes. So Bob was explaining the different things that people are doing, these beings are doing. So some have sex with humans as they dream and sleep, and some will haunt homes and hurt people physically in many ways and take over and enter a body to abuse and use it. All right. I saw somebody, they looked like they were drunk or high or possessed, and they over there banging their head against the wall. Somebody else had taken a fire, and she just looked like she was all gone. And she was doing something sexual, and she put the fire out in her mouth. And this is whatever type of being is feeding off of that pain or whatever that is causing to that physical entity. All right. But she was most likely, and that's why Baabaa has said we don't do those seances where these beings enter and now you talking babble. All right. So they can't not to speak, yet they groan and roar as monsters, and they'll scratch the flesh and leave scars. So these beings, when they enter that person's body, they don't actually speak. Some of them, they'll just they'll growl, and that's what that lady was doing. And they scratched the flesh, but she wasn't scratching the flesh. She was doing some sexual stuff, and then she had the fire on a stick. And she was like putting the fire in her mouth. All right. 286. And they even make a person, Batul, kill themselves, then take their body. They see the intoxicated, the drunk, who are easy to dakul, enter, if they push and shove them and make them fall, or have an open cut with blood, which attracts them as a gateway into the body. All right. So that's why you're stumbling, because in actuality, these cuts and you start to injure yourself. All right. They like to feed off of that. All right. So, you'll notice people do things, and people do things that they wouldn't have done if they weren't intoxicated or drunk. A lot of times that really, you probably really wouldn't do it, because they say a drunk person speaks the truth. That's not necessarily true. A drunk person can also be easily influenced and entered. All right. And Baabaa explained your melanin actually it is a form of psychic self-defense. I remember Baabaa explaining it. It was an old update, and he was explaining how Caucasians, they don't really have natural defenses, so they are easy to take over. As Nagaru, we have much more protections. However, our habits can remove those protections from us. All right. So that's why we want to get off the radar, because in actuality, we shouldn't be tuned in. Those walk-ins shouldn't be entering us that easily. But now somebody comes and they get you upset. They get you in your ego. You have something to prove. You guys are competing. Who's smarter, this or that. Those all create gateways. All right. And it's not even a nature. So it's not even part of our nature. So that's the Adamite genetics. People come in, and that has already entered us. All right. So we want to close off what we can control. 288. They will even get into a child, yet can't stay past 3 a.m. when the death gates, the 9 gates of death are patuh, open. They run and try to cross over. All right. So 3 a.m. is a key time. All right. A lot of things are happening, but I didn't know about it not being able to stay in a child. But there are children who are very demonic too. And what we do, instead of helping to close their gateways, what we do is we give them drugs like Ritalin and all this other stuff. All right. 289. They take shadow and misform, yet can't take human form as ghost. All right. So sometimes you'll see an energy, but they don't have enough energy to fully manifest. All right. Because it takes a certain amount of energy to solidify. All right. So when you look at, like, if you look at me, all right, or the appearance of me, because for all you know, I could be I might not even be a real person, but for argument's sake, let's say I'm a real person. I'm sitting before you on this application, and I appear solid. All right. But if you have the right tools, the right mechanisms, you'll be able to see that I'm not really solid. I'm just a bunch of different particles that's solidified, all right, around a certain point. All right. And so you need enough energy to be able to solidify. All right. So there's different beings that they're around, but they don't have enough energy to solidify. All right. So that's why you'll see it in mist form. All right, like 289. They take a shadow or mist form, yet can't take human form as a ghost. 290. Only if a human body is very deformed, they'll steal that image for a moment, only to frighten the living. It's a form of reflected light. All right, so they could play off of the lights. All right. So it goes back to the illusions of light. All right. And what's the purpose of like frightening? Because when they fright you, you get a surge of adrenaline. And that's what like in the mainstream, you hear people talking about adrenochrome. So what is adrenochrome? All right. Adrenochrome is, oh, do I even remember what adrenochrome is? All right. So adrenal is part of the adrenaline. All right. So it's a chemical that you release. So like if you get scared and let's say you're getting killed, you can release a form of adrenochrome. And that's like it's a certain chemical that your body gives off. So that's the name of the chemical, adrenochrome. All right. And you could look it up. And I even saw they were actually selling it one time. I don't know if it since it became popular, but I saw on the internet you can buy adrenochrome. All right. And it's supposed to give the person who takes it a high, and also it's supposed to be very healing as well. But what happens is also very addictive. But it's a natural hormone, which when it's synthesized, it acts like a drug. All right. So it's the same way, like if you know anybody who's a butcher, depending on how they kill the animal, the meat could taste different. All right. So they may want to kill the animal a certain way so the meat could taste this way. All right. Depending on what they're looking for from it. All right. So that's the benefit of fear, because you can give off more. You'll create something in your blood called adrenochrome. All right. So it's a form of reflected light. 292. They roam grave sites and sites of war as much Mawat's death. All right. They roam grave sites and sites of war. Baba had wrote me and he told me about New York City. And he said New York City, a lot of death happened. There's a lot of graves all around. All right. So that means that they're very heavy where New York is. All right. There's a lot of these entities are attracted to a place like New York, not just because it's a city, but also all the death that took place here. A lot of death took place here. 293. The 100 fallen ones, unlike the 200, cannot Nazul incarnates. Where else was a lot of death? I forgot where else was mentioned. Okay. So 100 fallen ones, unlike the 200, cannot Nazul incarnates, yet they haunt people, places, even things such as toys with living images. All right. They come and appear as orbs of Nawar lights as well. Not all orbs are wicked and evil. Only the 100 who have multiplied 100,000 over the 6,000 years and visit churches to enter those who ask for the Holy Ghost to enter them. And they do for that Wakut's time. So you go to church, you open yourself up, and you start asking, enter me, enter me, enter me. Baba is saying that these orbs, they like to hang out in churches, so they get to experience some type of living for a short time. All right. And they do. All right. So there was only 100, but they have been here multiplying, and feeding off and such and such. So you could imagine how much times they multiplied over the last 6,000 years. Now you have Haman Jananu, human devils, Sawawu, sons, and Sawatatu, daughters, of the 200 who have multiplied to 200,000 and still multiplying. All right. So you go, the seductress or whoever, they get into your family line, as it's explained in Are There Black Devils? That's how they work. All right. So Baba explains, yes, there's black devils. All right. They get into your family line, and it could be anybody in your family. It could be you, you know. So they've been multiplying since they've been here. All right. And you have spirit devils. And the 100 who did not warn Anu, the Most High, Anunnaki, Anunnakim. And these 200 was about to create the original sin. So many people open themselves up as Adamite religions. They do not tahum, overstand. Baba explains, before you get involved with any organization, you should take time to get to know what that organization is all about, including the leader. Research the leader too, all right, or the founder. He said founder, all right. He says that in, what is it? What's the name of that? What book is that? Is it The Mind? Yeah. But it's also recorded, and he recorded himself. All right, saying that, and that's also in the book. All right, and that's a form of protecting yourself. All right, so you're not confused, because the confusion is where the games are played with. So many people open themselves up in Zionite religions they don't tahum overstand. What I love about Baba is that he takes time to explain things. I have not experienced with Baba like do what I say, or else you're not a good Sabian. I never experienced that from him. I have experienced that from other people, but I have had Baba saying, "This is why I said what I said, and this is what it's going to do to help you." All right, and by the explanations, it's hoping to heal you. All right, because it's giving you an overstanding, it's raising you. All right. And that's why Baba calls us in many scrolls his children, because his job was to raise the consciousness of the people. 198. What most call angels or Holy Spirits, Holy Ghost, is called Malak, who are Molich or Malkin or Malek. Extraterrestrials, be they Elohim, Elahat, Jinn, Shaitan, Ifrit, Gul, Tagut, Iblis, Kafar, Balim, Abrim, Nephilim, Gibborim, Cherubim, Igigi, Anunnakim, or Raphaim. All these are Muzyad Mutatalu, extraterrestrials which came to earth for their own purposes. And some did genetic work on apes and Zazazu, men, as well as use some of their DNA. 300. Some by Gasub, rape, some by grafting, and made the Mudamu Salil, Adamite race of Laben Shakasu, white people, only 6,000 Shamutats years ago, by Rasul, rape and mixing. 301. Most don't have a clue of who they are, how they were made, and even why. Those of the Mudamu Salah, Adamite race, who do know or find out, do everything to cover up and hide the Sadak truth. So that's the thing. They don't know who they are. And when they finally find out who they are, it brings them such shame. And now there's a whole the new racism is really the denial of race. Race doesn't matter. That's the new racism. Because the reality is that as long as that they had the misinformation, they were the master race. Now that they find out who they really are, they want us to ignore race. All right. But in actuality, the facts are in your favor. The facts are not in their favor. They don't like what they see. All right. So they try to cover it up. And Baba even said a lot of those wars that you see happening in the Middle East is to keep certain information from getting out. Because in the Middle East or the Mesopotamia area, what they call the Middle East today, the Mesopotamia area, which would be Iraq, Palestine, and all those areas that you see a lot of wars. Oh, there you go. Bob's going to explain it here. 303. This is why they make war with parts of the earth where Kadem, ancient facts are uncovered, such as Iraq, Egypt, Libya, Jordan, Yemen, Ethiopia, Syria, Iran, India, and Jerusalem. While some fight, others are there to only destroy tablets and other scrolls and artifacts that tell the real story, not what he teaches as his story. All right. So Baba gave us a slight head start when Baba brought out the holy tablets. It was based on many of those Sumerian tablets. All right. Like the epics of Gilgamesh and, other scrolls like that you find in the holy tablets, because we wanted religion. So Baba said, we're going to go back to where those, we wanted the Bible, we wanted the Quran. So Baba took us from where those books were taken from. And since Baba, he masters language, he went and he read those old scrolls. All right. But now he's taking it one step further, and he's letting you know that that's not really your origins. those gods that you were worshiping, these are where these gods really come from. And I'm trying to take you away from the God. But you have to be very careful when you're criticizing someone's God. So before you can criticize the God, you have to explain that God, because that's that person's God. So you explain, okay, let's learn more about this guy. Okay, this is God, and then you can say, so what kind of God are you serving? And then it clicks. So a lot of times, like, when a person's in a dysfunctional relationship, you have to do a 12-step program to get out. And we've been in a very dysfunctional relationship, all right, for a long time, all right, with deceivers, all right, that controlled our very reality. So Baba had to explain it away, or we would have turned on him, if you really think about it. All right, now we're ready. All right, we're ready for the facts. So they were talking about the Adamites, all right. For us, we grew with the forces of natural nature, all right, and everything measured out right, all right, and it was a divine creation, all right. And that's not what's explained when you really go back. Now that more of the spell is broken, when you go back and read the holy tablets, that wasn't a divine creation with Ninti and Inky and Ningashel. When you see the way that they were putting together and the way they treated the people and the reason why they were creating the people for slave labor and to mine gold, all right, those weren't really the divine beings that we were trained to be under. All right. So go back and read those scrolls again. All right. So 304. He does not want the Tapal world to know he is made from apes and canines and porcines. All right. So apes and dogs and pigs, and is the seed of disagreeable fallen angels. All right. So they thought that those extraterrestrials that they were dealing with were superior. Now Baba has opened the door. Now you can accept there's extraterrestrials. Guess what? Yeah, those are extraterrestrials, but there's extraterrestrials even greater than those ones. So now there's all kinds of different extraterrestrials. All right. With all different agendas, all different genetics and such. All right. So 306. These are the foul spirits trapped on earth, as you read in Revelation chapter 18, and Nuwapians, Revelation chapter 19 from verse 11. Onward speaks of another angelic war and how their Gadadu deities, gods, came to eat human flesh. All right. So there was wars on different planets already. All right. And just because you have, for example, you have the dragon, which will be, let's say, China, and you have the eagle, or let's just say China and the bull. So you have Russia, and these both are fighting. You can have two beings fighting. It doesn't mean either side is for you, because it's not always a fight between an angel. Well, they're all angels. So it's not always a fight between God and the devil. Sometimes it's a fight between devils and it's not your business. Sometimes there's different things going on, different politics. All right. So the wars in the sky, you see two of them, two extraterrestrials groups fighting. It might not even have anything to do with you for that particular war. All right. It seems like there's an update that's supposed to come out that they're trying to keep from the people. But one of the updates that's supposed to come out, and I don't know if it's going to come out now, but there's an update that's supposed to come out that Baba explained that there's the drones that you saw, some of that, not all the drones, because they're different drones. There was drones that was looking for Baba, all right? And then if you notice, they was talking about shooting certain drones down. All right. Now, more information, I don't know. We'll see if they share it. I don't know more than that. That's what I'm sharing. So there were drones recently that was looking for Baabaa. 308. Let's go 307. Nuwapians, Revelation 19 verses 11 onwards speaks of another angelic war and how their Gadadu deities, gods, came to eat human flesh. With a play on words, you must know they are human flesh eaters, as found in the Bible in many places. Cannibalism. All right. So it seems like they're getting the people used to through the pornography, that new site, that they could come down and have sex and then eat the people. All right. So they're already getting people used to it, and behind closed doors, people are practicing it. All right. Already. 209. I mean, and it won't be behind closed doors for long. All right. Because it's being normalized more and more. 309. In their yakarats, that's genes, from the sons of Elohim, you read about in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. It reads, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and their daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all they chose. And the Lord said, my God, my spirit, and the Lord said, my spirit will not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, that they bear children to them. The same became mighty men, which were old men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of thoughts in his heart was only evil continuously. Yet, when they rewrote the story, they left out much that has been uncovered in the book of Enoch and in the book of Jubilee, that their offspring, or the Gabaru, or the Gibor, ate their own Karadu children and Menashu parents. All right. They left parts of it in, but it goes more detail in the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilee. All right. But you also remember in the book of Kings that the woman, she was complaining because they had made a deal to eat her baby today, and tomorrow they were supposed to eat the other one's baby. Well, I guess the other woman had a change of heart, so she hid her child. But she ate the other woman's child, but she decided to hide her own. So they eat the children, and they also ate their parents. And then also, Baabaa explained that the Mexicans, who are very mixed with a lot of Adamite genes, and they have so many children, and they eat a lot of meat. So stop eating Mexican food too, because they eat a lot of beef and all that, you know. Baabaa said that they're going to come to a point where they're going to be eating their children too. And I guess they'll justify it because they have so many. 311. In the book of Enoch, book 1, chapter 7, verses 1 through 14. Who was this Enoch? Well, Nuwapians, in Genesis chapter 5, verses 18 through 24, you read that this Enoch, the Muslims call Iris, was taken by the Elohim gods. They took him up there in Genesis chapter 5, verses 18 through 24. All right. The book of Enoch, chapter 7, verses 1 through 14, it reads, it happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the angels and the sons of God beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, come, let us select for ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. Then their leader, Shamyaza, said to them, I fear that you may perhaps be indisposed to the performance of this enterprise, and that I alone shall suffer for so grievous a crime. All right. So the Shamyaza is saying, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe this is a crime. And they answered him and said, we all swear and bind ourselves by mutual execrations that we will not change our intention, but execute our projected undertaking. All right. So the people, those extraterrestrials, are saying to the leader who's saying maybe we shouldn't do this, they're saying, no, we promise that we will stay to our intentions. All right. So they all swore together and all bound themselves by mutual execrations. Their whole number was 200, who descended upon Ardis, Hasmoni. They ascended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Armon. And the mountain, therefore, was called Armon, because they swore upon it and bound themselves by mutual execrations. These are the names of their chiefs. Zamyaza was their leader. Araka Ramel, Akibel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Azkiel, Sarah Kiel, Azriel, Armros, Betrayal, Aning, Zavib, Samsaville, Ertil, Teril, Yamyael, Araziel. These were the perfects of the 200 angels, and the remainder all with them. They took wives, each choosing for himself. All right. So you see they're all L. One notice that they're all L. So then that means that I'm trying to remember which brother's which. Inky. And then you had the Aya. So I think Enlil. Is it Enlil? I can't remember which brother's which. Baba explained it. But one brother is the Ayas and the other one is the L's. All right. Whoever remembers as we're reading, feel free to which brother's which. All right. So these were the perfects of the 200 angels, and the remainder were all with them. They took wives, each choosing for himself, whom they began to approach, and with whom they cohabited, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots and trees. And the women conceiving brought forth giants, whose stature was each 300 cubits. These devoured all which the labor men produced, until it became impossible to feed them. When they turned themselves against men in order to devour them, and began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, and fishes, to eat their flesh one after another and drink their blood. All right. So they had an insatiable appetite, and they just kept eating till they ran out of the people who were growing the food. They couldn't keep up with the demand. So then they started to, when they ran out of things to eat, they started eating the people and eating all the birds and fish, even the reptiles, everything, and drinking blood. All right, so you can go to England and different places. You can get blood porridge, all right, blood sausage, and all that. They make the sausage out of blood, actually. Genesis chapter 5, verses 18 through 24. And Jared lived 162 years, and he begot Enoch. And Jared lived after, and he begot Enoch 800 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years, and begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God before he begot Methuselah 300 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. 3:12. And when he returned, he recorded what he was told to write into the lost book of Enoch. Why lost? Because the Adamite seed did not include this book in what you call the Bible today, because it tells their true story and explains why in Genesis chapter 6, verses 5. It says they are wicked and evil by their very nature. All right. Another thing, a little note when you say they had a very wicked nature. All right. So you ever heard somebody say that was a very mean-spirited thing to do? You ever hear somebody say that's a mean-natured thing to do? So spirit and nature is all connected. That's why Bible keeps taking us to soul. He said live by soul. All right. Some of us are very mean people in this tribe, but everybody's very nice. You know, and this is what happened with the Adamites, and the Adamites being wreaking havoc on this planet, mixing in with us. And some of us are very spiteful. All right. So when you have, and some of us have unnatural tendencies. So what can save us is if we tune in to live by soul. All right. Because it will protect you from maybe unnatural appetites or unnatural tendencies and things like that. That really you're destroying your own life anyway. All right. And then also hurting others. Genesis chapter 6, verses 5. And Yahweh saw the wickedness of Adamites was great on the planet earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of their hearts was only evil continuously. All right. So what they would think to do. So for example, somebody you give them this pen. Yeah, here's this pen. And in their imagination, they're like, oh, I could write a nice letter to somebody. And somebody else in their imagination, they're like, oh, this will make a good weapon. You know, you could see what this person's nature is by what's in their imagination and things that they would imagine to do. All right. Or how they relate with things. Or you see like, oh, that's a beautiful animal. I just want to sit here and admire it. That's a beautiful animal. I would like to kill it. It would look really nice. Its dead body would look nice in my house. You know, that's different natures. Or there's a beautiful flower, you know, I enjoy walking by it every day. And somebody else, they're like, oh, that's a beautiful flower. I would like to go and pick it and kill it and put it in a vase and watch it die and then throw it away. You have different things, different inspirations based on the nature of what you're inspired to do in your imagination. So when we read that again, it says, Yahweh saw the wickedness of Adamites was great in the planet earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of their heart was only evil continuously. That means the mixture of Adamites and with the Nephilim birthed evil children called Gabarites, evil by nature. All right. So when somebody's evil by nature, and Are There Black Devils? That's a really good book to read. Bible says that a lot of people, they're into devilishment. It doesn't mean that they're a devil. Because you let's say you both are robbing liquor stores, right? You could have a devil and somebody who's not a devil, and they're both doing devilishment together, you know. What's the difference? Is that a lot of times people who are into devilishment, once they have the tools to remove themselves away from those influences, that's not really what they want to do. A lot of times it's influences and circumstances. All right. And for the devil, that's what the devil is doing by its very nature. All right. So some people have a naturally mean nature. Some people are just protecting themselves. All right. So that's why Baba said that a lot of times you can't really tell who somebody is until they come across this information. Now, when he came across us, we weren't in our best state, and he understood we've been under the influence of adverse forces. That's why he said he's waking up gods and devils, because what ends up happening is when they have the opportunity to do something different, he could see what the nature, well, he may see the nature already, but let's say it will show what a person's nature really is. Because you'll see some people, what are they inspired to do with this information? I could scam people and get so much more money, right? Or I can help people. Wow, this has really helped me. Let me see how I could possibly help others. Or let me see how I could be more important than others. That's all in the genetics, right? And that all talks about the genetic, the nature of that person. All right. And you'll notice that your nature will be revealed. Now, sometimes a person may have a conflict in nature. All right. You'll have to work through that genetic. You'll have to heal yourself through that, because you may have a certain desire or tendency to want to do X, Y, Z. All right. You may have unnatural desires. And that's also, you'll have to work through it. So one part of you might tell you want to do something, another part, and it might be a conflict. All right. But some people just naturally go one way or the other. All right. So it's all happening side by side. And that's why Baba said that they were already judged, the Adamites. For us, we're being judged now. All right. And because as an Nagarus, we made it. Individually, that's to see. All right. So don't take your melanin for granted and be arrogant. And that's why Baba always tells us it's nice to be important, but it's more important to just be nice, because he knows that he's speaking to multiple dimensions in you. And there is a tendency for some of us to want to control others. All right. So that's why that saying he says so much. All right. So these are Adam's son, Seth's son, Enos' offspring, by the sons of the Elohim. All right. Talking about the mixture of these evil Adamites and these evil Nephilim who birth evil children. All right. So you wicked on both sides. 3:15. They don't want you to know their Elohim, their Yahweh is evil and had children that are evil. 3:16. Who did not die in the Gamar flood, as you read in Genesis chapter 8, verses 21. After the Gamar flood, they were still evil, as it says in Genesis chapter 8, verses 21. I will not curse the ground anymore for Adamite's sake, for the imagination of the Adamite's heart is evil from his youth. All right. So even after the flood, Noah was supposedly perfect in his generations, right? Now, as we read more, perfect for what? All right. Because I can get the perfect cut of beef, as a food person. I can get a perfect cut of beef, but you have to kind of like raise a specific animal, and it's been bred for that type of, so it's like a wagyu beef, and it's noted for its marbling of how the muscle and the fat marbles a certain way. All right. So they were genetically bred that way, and then also the circumstances that they're kept. All right. So that is considered A grade. All right. So perfect. So when somebody says they're perfect in their generations, perfect for what? All right. All right? Because now we still have Noah's sons supposedly lusting after him, and then children after the flood being born with diseases. So what was it? What was Noah perfect for? All right. So I will not curse the ground anymore for Adamite's sake, for the imagination of an Adamite's heart is evil from his youth. So that's just Adamite's nature. That's what Genesis said, the King James Version. All right. So they are still evil by nature or from their youth after the Ramah flood of Noah. All right. So for us, what's the difference from us? Because I see the stories overlapping. How can we relate? How can we learn from this? Because they said the wise learn from the foolish. All right. What's a lesson we could learn? So in a way, we're kind of having a flood because we're having a shift. We're having a shift, and we're having a dimensional shift. All right. And we're supposed to be burning out certain weaknesses and such. All right. So when Baabaa met us, he met us in a devilish state, for lack of a better word. He met us in a very downtrodden state. And he had to remind us once again of our divinity. All right. So he said, the Son of Righteousness bring healing in his wings. All right. As a sun cycle to burn away the illusions. All right. And so yeah, burn away the illusions. How do I want to say that? So the reality is that we should not be the same as we were in the moon cycle, as we burn certain things away. All right. So you see a change. All right. So what was that other flood for? Supposedly to purify the people. All right. So we're purifying in the fire as we burn out our desires. And we shouldn't be the same after the fire, because you come out changed. All right. But in the King James Version, they failed. As far as the Adamites go, they failed. All right. That same decrepit nature is still their nature. For us, we should have elevated. All right. And those of us who don't elevate, we also burn away with the illusions. All right. 318, or we burn away with the diseases. 318. And to find out what race this is, one only has to look up the Hebrew name Adam, the same as in Arabic Adam. In Hebrew Strong's number 119 through 132, you will see it says flush, turned rosy, ruddy, red, reddish, red spots. That is the pale race, or the white lepers, or the white race as lepers. 319. You see in Leviticus chapter 13, verses 1 through 59, you read this, and it describes the name Adam as a race with barasi, or leprosy. Even yellow thin fur and freckles, yes, it says their flesh, bright spots, even white. No doubt. Which race is Adamites? All right. So no doubt this is explaining a specific race, and that's the Adamites. That's not the African. Now, some of us kind of have that spotty skin and that look like salami. Some of us got that skin because we mixed. All right. But the African, all right, their root is smooth, dark. All right. All right. Smooth and not spotted. All right. All right. So they try to hide these hakakat, actual facts, and have hid books such as the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilee, which records the story of them being cannibals. In the Book of Jubilee, chapter 5, verses 1 through 10, it reads, And it came to pass that when the children of men began to multiply on the face of the earth, that the daughters were born unto them. And the angel of God saw them on a certain year of this Jubilee, that they were beautiful to look upon. And they took themselves wives of all who they chose, and they bore unto them sons. and they were giants. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, alike men and cattle, and beasts and birds, and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders. All right. So think about it. All of them corrected their ways and their orders. It kind of reminds me of today, because every animal has its own order, its own way. All right. So now when we're taking a dog and we're putting little socks on it and making it live with us, that's a violation to that dog's nature. Because what makes a dog happy in its nature is not the same as what a human nature. It's not the same as a fish nature. It's not the same as a polar bear nature. All right. So you'll see that the different animals, they were corrupting their ways and their order. So there's no order like we're in those times right now. All right. People would treat the animal better than they treat their own family and talk about, this is my family. That is a corruption of nature. All right. Because in nature, that doesn't happen. The dogs are with the dogs. The wolves are with the wolves. The birds are with the birds. All right. They now they like to put the rat and the cat being best friends. All right. And eating out the same bowl. And the rabbit and the dog and all this confusion. All right. So all of them corrupted their ways and their orders. So it's just disorder. And they began to devour each other. And lawlessness increased on the earth. And every imagination of thoughts of all men was thus evil continually. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. And all the flesh had corrupted its order. And all that were upon earth had brought all manners of evil before his eyes. And he said that he would destroy man and all flesh upon the face of the earth, which he had created. But Noah, which is funny, because when you look at that little statement, so he said he would destroy man and all flesh on the earth, which he had created. All right. So he's going to destroy everything that he created. All right. So everybody else that's not in that jurisdiction has nothing to do with that story. This is talking about that group's own creation. All right. But Noah found grace before the eyes of the Lord. And again, the angels whom he had sent down upon the earth, he was exceedingly wroth. And he gave commandments to root them out of all their dominion. And he bade us to bind them in the depths of the earth. And behold, they were bound in the midst of them, and are kept separate. And again, and against their sons went forth a command from before his face, that they shall be smitten with the sword, and be removed from under heaven. And he said, my spirit shall not always abide on man, for they are also flesh, and their days shall be 120 years. What I always thought was interesting in that wording was why is the word also being used? Why can't they just say, my spirit will not always abide in man, for they are flesh? It says, my spirit will not always abide on man, for they are also flesh. So that's a little clue that they are also flesh like me. All right. So these beings, these extraterrestrials, were flesh and blood extraterrestrials, because also flesh, what is it also to say? All right. So my spirit shall not always abide on man, for they are also flesh. And their days shall be 120 years. And he sent his sword into their midst, that each should slay his neighbor. All right. So he caused them to turn on each other so they can get rid of themselves. All right. And that's what I kind of noticed when they're taking things. And I didn't like that comment when somebody had asked if I ever met Baabaa in the flesh. all right, when Baabaa has been locked up for 23 years. Because this creates a climate of division of old timers versus newcomers, all right? So you can cause a problem, step back and let the people turn on each other, all right? I don't do the old comer, new timer thing because really I don't care. I don't care how long you've been around. That's irrelevant to me, all right? If you've been here for 5 minutes, if you've been here for 50 years, let's get into the scrolls, all right? Because as far as I see it, we all need this information. We all have healing to do. And there's no time to have to create, what is that word called? Hierarchies, right? And there could be I could accept a hierarchy if someone made it on the shift 2023, if they made 2013, if they made 2003. As far as I know, no old timer or newcomer made that shift, all right? They didn't make the pickup. So we don't have time for no, but I'm not going to allow no turning. So this is what that God did to the people. He sent his sword into their midst so that they would slay each other. So each would slay his neighbor. And they begot to slay each other till they fell by the sword and were destroyed from the earth. And their fathers were witnesses of their destruction. And after this, they were bound in the depth of the earth forever until the day of condemnation, when judgment is executed on all those who have corrupted their ways and their works before the Lord. 323. Why they offered their cherubim gods Jasad flesh and Damam blood offerings. All right. So read all the chapters of Leviticus from chapter 1 and 10. Also, you will see their God Lord visits Abraham with 2 angels and eat the flesh of a calf in Genesis chapter 18, 1 through 8. So in that story in Genesis chapter 18, verses 1 through 8, you will see where, let me see if Paul puts it. All right. Okay, so in that story, when the angels, the 2 angels, all right, they came down and Abraham run to Sarah real quick and he said, quick, hasten to dress a calf. All right. And Sarah dressed the calf and Abraham baked bread and gave it to the 2 angels and they ate. So when you dress something, it didn't say cook something. So it seems like it was shared raw. All right. So it was a raw animal. And why were they so quick to feed them? And why did he run and say, please eat? And he was so humble because he know that these beings are cannibalistic. So he has to make sure that they're not hungry when he's talking to them because they don't want to be eaten. All right. So they know the nature of the God that they are dealing with. All right. So yes, the God and angels of the Bible in the Quran ate flesh and drank blood. 325. This is recorded in the books and passed on to their offspring, the Hebrews and the Israelites. Many places such as these in 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 28 through 29. And the king said unto her, what aileth thee? And she answered, this woman said to me, give thy son, and we can eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son and did eat him. And I said unto her the next day, give thy son that we may eat him. And she had hid her son. And in Lamentations chapter 26 verses 29, it says, and ye shall eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters shall ye eat. And I'm thinking, the funny thing is that with all the famine they like to show about Africa, all the famine they like to show, like in Somalia and all that, you don't really see the people eating each other in those extreme famine, feed the children commercials, right? Even in all the faced with all that famine. But when Russia, for example, had went through their famine, cannibalism went up. You can actually research that. And right here in the Americas, like Eatonton, Georgia, they're known for cannibalism when you do the research, all right, of the settlers who came here, all right. They were eating each other, and they were also eating whatever flesh they could get, all right. So Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 53 and 57 reads, "And thou shalt eat the fruit of thy own body, the flesh thy sons and of their daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee, in the siege and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates." That's in the King James Version. And then you have Lamentations chapter 2, verses 20. "Behold, O God, and consider to whom thou hast done this. Shall the women eat their fruit, and children of a span long? Shall the priest and the prophet be slain in the sanctuary of the Lord?" That's in the King James Version. Lamentations. So all these things about eating people. "The hands of the pitiful woman has sodden their own children. They were the meats in the destruction of the daughter of my people." King James Version. And finally, Jeremiah 19, chapter 9. "And I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they shall eat every one the flesh of his friend in the siege and straitness, wherewithin their enemies, and they seek their lives, shall straiten them." All right. So a friend in the siege. All right. So when you see something, you take it. Siege. This is a siege, a takeover. All right. So when people go to war, eat each other. And this one man, all right, I spoke to different people who were in the Vietnam War, and mostly I speak to black men in the Vietnam War, but I spoke to this white man who was in the Vietnam War, and of all the people I spoke to in the Vietnam War, it was the white man who told me that they were eating people. He said that he has eaten people again, and he kind of liked it, and if he had to, he would do it again. That's what he said. All right. 3:27. So you see it in the book, First Enoch, chapter 7, verses 13 to 14. And you see in the book of Jubilee. All right. So in the book of Enoch 7, chapter 13 to 14 reads, "And they turned themselves against men in order to devour them, and began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, and fishes, to eat the flesh one after another,